And that I prated peace. When first I heard war music, felt the blind, wild beast, a force whose home is in the sinews of a man, stir in me as to strike. Then took the king his 3 broad sons, with now a wandering hand, and now a pointed finger, told them all. A common light of smiles at our disguise broke from their lips, and ere the windy jest had labored down within his ample lungs, the genial giant, Arak, rolled himself thrice in the saddle, then burst out in words. Our land invaded, 's death, and he himself your captive, yet my father wills not war, and death, myself, what care I, war or no? But then this question of your troth remains, and there's a downright honest meaning in her. She flies too high, she flies too high, and yet she asked but space and fair play for her scheme. She pressed and pressed it on me, I myself, and what I know of these things, but life and soul, I thought her half right, talking of her wrongs. I say she flies too high, 's death, what of that? I take her for the flower of womankind, and so I often told her, right or wrong. And prince, she can be sweet to those she loves, and right or wrong I care not. This is all, I stand upon her side. She made me swear it, 's death, and with solemn rites, by candlelight, swear by Saint something, I forget her name, her that talked down the 50 wisest men. She was a princess too, and so I swore. Come, this is all, she will not waive your claim. If not the foughten field, what else at once decides it? 's death against my father's will. I lagged an answer, loth to render up my pre-contract, and loth by brainless war to cleave the rift of difference deeper yet, to one of those 2 brothers half aside, and fingering at the hair about his lip, to prick us on to combat, like to like. The woman's garment hid the woman's heart, a taunt that clenched his purpose like a blow. Her fiery short was Cyril's counter scoff, and sharp I answered, touched upon the point, where idle boys are cowards to their shame. Decide it here, why not? We are 3 to 3. Then spake the third, but 3 to 3, no more, and in our noble sister's cause, more for honor. Every captain waits, hungry for honor, angry for his king. More and more, some 50 on a side, that each may breathe himself, and quick, by overthrow of these or those, the question settled, die. Yea, answered I, for this wreath of air, this flake of rainbow flying on the highest, foam of men's deeds, this honor, if ye will, it needs must be for honor, if at all. Since what decision, if we fail, we fail, and if we win, we fail. She would not keep her compact, 's death, but we will send to her, said Arak, worthy reasons why she should bide by this issue. Let our missive through, and you shall have her answer by the word. Boys, shrieked the old king, but vainlier than a hen, to her false daughters in the pool, for none regarded, neither seemed there more to say. Back rode we to my father's camp, and found he thrice had sent a herald to the gates, to learn if Ida yet would cede our claim, or by denial flush her babbling wells with her own people's life. 3 times he went. The first he blew and blew, but none appeared. He battered at the doors, none came. The next, an awful voice within had warned him thence. The third, and those 8 daughters of the plough, came sallying through the gates, and caught his hair, and so belaboured him on rib and cheek, they made him wild. Not less one glance he caught, through open doors, of Ida stationed there, unshaken, clinging to her purpose, firm, though compassed by 2 armies, and the noise of arms, and standing like a stately pine, set in a cataract on an island crag, when storm is on the heights, and right and left, sucked from the dark heart of the long hills, roll the torrents dashed to the vale, and yet her will, bred of will in me, to overcome are to fall. But when I told the king that I was pledged to fight in tourney for my bride, he clashed his iron palms together with a cry. Himself would tilt it out among the lads, but overborne by all his bearded lords, with the reasons drawn from age and state, for force he yielded, wroth and red, with fierce demur. And many a bold knight started up in heat, and sware to combat for my claim till death. All on this side, the palace ran the field, flat to the garden wall, and likewise here, above the garden's glowing blossom belts, a columned entry shone, and marble stairs, and great bronze valves, embossed with Timaris, and what she did to Cyrus after fight, but now fast barred. So here upon the flat, all that long morn the lists were hammered up, and all that morn heralds to and fro, with message and defiance. With message and defiance, went and came, lost Ida's answer in a royal hand, but shaken here and there, and rolling words, oration-like. I kissed it, and I read, O brother, you have known the pangs we felt, what heats of indignation, when we heard of those that iron cramped their women's feet, of lands in which, at the altar, the poor bride gives her harsh groom for bridal gift a scourge, of living hearts that crack within the fire, where smolder their dead despots, and of those mothers that with all prophetic pity fling their pretty maids in the running flood, and swoops the vulture, beak and talon, at the heart, made for all noble motion. And I saw that equal baseness lived in sleeker times, with smoother men. The old leaven leavened all. Millions of throats would bawl for civil rights. No woman named. Therefore I set my face against all men, and lived but for mine own. Far off from men, I built a fold for them. I stored it full of rich memorial. I fenced it round with gallant institutes, and biting laws, to scare the beasts of prey, and prospered, till a rout of saucy boys brake on us at our books, and marred our peace, masked like our maids, blustering I knew not what, of insolence and love, some pretext held of baby troth, invalid since my will, sealed not the bond the striplings for their sport. I tamed my leopards. Shall I not tame these? Are I? For since you think me touched, yeah, the Queen of Wands needs to calm down a bit, doesn't she? In honor, what? I would aught of false. Is not our case pure? And whereas I know your prowess, Iraq, and what mother's blood you draw from, fight, you failing, I abide. What end? Soe'er fail you will not, still take not his life. He risked it for my own. His mother lives, yet whatsoe'er you do, fight and fight well, strike and strike him. O dear brothers, the woman's angel guards you, the sole men to be mingled with our cause, the sole men we shall prize in after time. Your very armor hollowed, and your statues reared, sung to, when this gadfly brushed aside, we plant a solid foot into the time, and mold the generation strong to move, with claim on claim from right to right. Still she, whose name is yoked with children's, know herself, and knowledge in our own land make her free. And I, ever flowing, those two crown twins, commerce and conquest, shower the fiery grain of freedom broadcast over all the orbs between the northern and southern morn. Then came a postscript, dashed across the rest. See that there be no traitors in your camp. We seem a nest of traitors, none to trust, since our arms failed this Egypt plague of men. Almost our maids were better at their homes than thus man-girdled here. Indeed, I think our chiefest comfort is the little child of one unworthy mother which she left. She shall not have it back. The child shall grow to prize the authentic mother of her mind. I took it for an hour in mine own bed. This morning, there the tender orphan hands felt at my heart, and seemed to charm from thence the wrath I nursed against the world. Farewell. I ceased, he said, stubborn, but she may sit upon a king's right hand in thunderstorms, and breed up warriors. See now, though yourself be dazzled by the wildfire, love to sloths that swallow common sense. The spindling king, this gamma swamped in lazy tolerance, when the man wants to wait, the woman takes it up and topples down the scales. But this is fixed, as are the roots of earth and base of all. Man for the field, and woman for the hearth. Man for the sword, and for the needle she. Man with the head, and woman with the heart. Man to command, and woman to obey. All else confusion. Look at you, the grey mare is ill to live with, when her whining shrills from tile to scullery, and her small goodman shrinks in his armchair, while the fires of hell mix with his hearth. But you, she's yet a colt. Break her, strongly groomed and straightly curbed. She might not rank with those detestable that let the bantling scold at home, and brawl their rights and wrongs like potherbs in the street. They say she's comely, there's the fairer chance. I like her none the less for rating at her. Besides, the woman wed is not as we, but suffers change of frame. A lusty brace of twins may weed her of her folly. Boy, the bearing and the training of a child is woman's wisdom. Thus, the hard old king, I took my leave, for it was nearly noon. I pored upon her letter, which I held, and on the little clause, take not his life, I mused on that wild morning in the woods, and on the follow, thou shalt win. I thought on all the wrathful king had said, and how the strange betrothment was to end. Then I remembered that burnt sorcerer's curse, that one should fight with shadows and should fall. And like a flash, the weird affection came. King, camp, and college turned to hollow shows. I seemed to move in old memorial tilts, and doing battle with foreign ghosts, to dream myself the shadow of a dream. And ere I woke it was the point of noon. The lists were ready. Empanoplied and plumed, we entered in and waited. 50 there, opposed to 50, till the trumpet blared. At the barrier, like a wild horn, in a land of echoes, and a moment at once more, the trumpet and again. At which the storm and riders, front to front, until they closed in conflict with the crash of shivering points and thunder. Yet it seemed a dream I dreamed of fighting. On his haunches rose the steed, and into fiery splinters leapt the lance, and out of stricken helmets sprang the fire. Part set like rocks, part reeled but kept their seats, part rolled on the earth and rose again and drew, part stumbled mixed with floundering horses, down from those two bulks at Arak's side, and down from Arak's arm as from a giant's flail. The large blows rained, as here and everywhere. He rode the Malay, lord of the bringing lists, and all the plain brand, mace, and shaft, and shield shock like an iron clanging anvil banged with hammers, till I thought, can this be he from Gamma's dwarfest loins? If this be so, the mother makes us most, and in my dream I glanced aside and saw the palace front, alive with fluttering scarfs and ladies' eyes, and highest among the statues and statue-like, between assembled Miriam and Ajal, with Psyche's babe was Ida watching us, a single band of gold about her hair, like a saint's glory up in heaven. But she, no saint inexorable, no tenderness too hard, too cruel, yet she sees me fight. Yea, let her see me fall. And with that I drave among the thickest, and bore down a prince, and Cyril won. Yea, let me make my dream all that I would. But that large moulded man, his visage all a grin as at a wake, made at me through the press, and staggering back, with stroke on stroke the horse and horseman came, as comes a pillar of electric cloud, flaying the roofs and sucking up the drains, and shadowing down the champagne till it strikes on a wood and takes, and breaks and cracks and splits, and twists the grain with such a roar that earth reels, and the herdsmen cry, for everything gave way before him. Only Florian, he that loved me closer than his own right eye, thrust in between, but a rock rode him down, and Cyril sing it pushed against the prince, with Psyche's color round his helmet. Tough, strong, supple, Sinew-corded, apt at arms, but tougher, heavier, stronger. He that smote, and threw him. Last I spurred, I felt my veins stretched with fierce heat, a moment hand to hand, and sword to sword, and horse to horse we hung, till I struck out and shouted. The blade glanced, I did but shear a feather, and dream and truth flowed from me. Darkness closed me, and I fell. Be ready for failure, but of course, let's see if he picks himself up here. And in what way, right? My dream had never died or lived again. As in some mystic middle state I lay, seeing I saw not, hearing not I heard, though if I saw not, yet they told me all, so often that I speak as having seen. For so it seemed, or so they said to me, that all things grew more tragic and more strange, that when our side was vanquished, and my cause forever lost, there went up a great cry, "The prince is slain!" My father heard and ran in on the lists, and there unlaced my casque, and grovelled on my body, and after him came Psyche, sorrowing for Aglaia. But high upon the palace Ida stood, with Psyche's babe in arm. There on the roofs, like that great dame of Lapidoth, she sang, "Our enemies have fallen, have fallen. The seed has the little seed they laughed at in the dark, has risen and cleft the soil, and grown a bulk of spanless girth, that lays on every side 1,000 arms and rushes to the sun. Our enemies have fallen, they came, the leaves are wet with women's tears. They heard a noise of songs they would not understand. They marked it with the red cross to the fall, and would have strewn it, and are fallen themselves. Our enemies have fallen, they came, the woodmen with their axes, lo the tree, but we will make it faggots for the hearth, bundles of sticks to burn, and shape it plank and beam for roof and floor, and boats and bridges for the use of men. Our enemies have fallen, they struck. With their own blows they hurt themselves, nor knew there dwelt an iron nature in the grain. The glittering axe was broken in their arms were shattered to the shoulder blade. Our enemies have fallen, but this shall grow, a night to summer from the heat, a breath of autumn, dropping fruits of power, and rolled with music in the growing breeze of time. The top shall strike from star to star, the fangs shall move the stony bases of the world. And now, O maids, behold, our sanctuary is violate, our laws broken. Fear we not to break them more in their behoof, whose arms championed our cause, and won it with a day, blanched in our annals and perpetual feast, when dames and heroines of the golden year shall strip 100 hollows bare of spring, to reign in April of ovation round, their statues borne aloft, the three, but come, we will be liberal, since our rights are won. Let them not lie in the tents with the coarse mankind. Ill nurses, but descend and proffer these, the brethren of our blood and cause, that there lie bruised and maimed the tender ministries of female hands and hospitality. She spoke, and with the babe yet in arms, descending burst the great bronze valves, and led 100 maids in train across the park, some cowled and some bareheaded. On they came, their feet in flowers, her loveliest. By them went the enamored air sighing, and on their curls from the high tree the blossom wavering fell, and over them the tremulous isles of light slighted, they moving under shade. But Blanc at distance followed. So they came, anon through open field into the lists they wound, timorously, and as the leader of the herd that holds a stately fretwork to the sun, and followed up by 100 airy does, steps with a tender foot, light as air, the lovely, lordly creature floated on to where her wounded brethren lay. There stayed, knelt on one knee, the child on one, and the priest their hands, and called them dear deliverers and happy warriors in immortal names, and said, You shall not lie in the tents, but here, and nursed by those for whom you fought, and served with female hands and hospitality. Then, whether moved by this, or was it chance, she passed my way, upstarted from my side, the old lion glaring with his whelpless eye, silent, but when she saw me lying stark, dishelmed and mute, and motionlessly pale, cold even to her, she sighed, and when she saw the haggard father's face, and reverend beard of grisly twine, all dabbled with the blood of his own son, shuddered a twitch of pain, tortured her mouth, and o'er her forehead passed a shadow, and her hue changed, and she said, He saved my life. My brother slew him for it. No more, at which the king, in bitter scorn, drew from my neck the painting and the tress, and held them up. She saw them, and on a day rose from the distance on her memory, when the good queen, her mother, shore the tress with kisses, ere the days of Lady Blanc. And then, once more, she looked at my pale face, till understanding all the foolish work of fancy and the bitter close of all, her iron will was broken in her mind. Her noble heart was molten in her breast. She bowed, she set the child on the earth, she laid a feeling finger on my brows, and presently, O sire, she said, He lives, he is not dead. Oh, let me have him with my brethren here, in our own palace. We will tend on him like one of these, if so, by any means, to lighten this great clog of thanks that make our progress falter to the woman's goal. She said, but at the happy word, He lives, my father stooped, refathered o'er my wounds. So those two foes above my fallen life, with brow to brow like night and evening mixed, their dark and gray, while Psyche ever stole a little nearer, till the babe that by us half lapped in glowing gauze and golden bride, lay like a new fallen meteor on the grass, uncared for, spied its mother and began a blind and babbling laughter, and to dance its body and reach its fatling innocent arms and lazy lingering fingers. She, the appeal, brooked not, but clamoring out, Mine, 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 not yours. It is not yours, but mine. Give me the child. Ceased all on tremble. Piteous was the cry. She stood, the unhappy mother, open-mouthed, and turned each face her way. Wan was her cheek, with hollow watch, her blooming mantle torn, red grief and mother's hunger in her eye. And down dead heavy sank her curls, and half the scared mother's bosom, panting, burst the laces toward her babe. But she not cared nor knew it, clamoring on till Ida heard, looked up, and rising slowly from me, stood erect and silent, striking with her glance the mother, me, the child, but he that lay beside us, Cyril, battered as he was, trailed himself up on one knee. Then he drew her robe to meet his lips, and down she looked at the armed man sideways, pitying, as it seemed, our self-involved. But when she learned his face, remembering his ill-omened song, arose once more through all her height, and o'er him grew, tall as a figure lengthened on the sand. When the tide ebbs in sunshine, and he said, "O fair and strong and terrible Linus, that, with your long locks, play the lion's mane. But love and nature, these are two more terrible and stronger. See, your foot is on our necks. We vanquished, you the victor of your will. What would you more? Give her the child, remain, or bed in your isolation. He is dead, our all is as dead. Henceforth we let you be, win you the hearts of Whitman, and beware lest, where you seek the common love of these, the common hate with the revolving wheel should drag you down, and some great nemesis break from a darkened future, crowned with fire, and tread you out forever. But howsoe'er fix in yourself, never in your own arms to hold your own. Deny not hers to her. Give her the child. If I say you keep one pulse that beats true, woman, if you love the breast that fed, our arm that dandled you, our own one part of sense, not flint to prayer, give her the child. Or if you scorn to lay it yourself in hands so lately clasped with yours, or speak to her, your dearest, her one fault, the tenderness, not yours, that could not kill, give me it. I will give it her.